Hey, 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 happy Sunday. Happy Sunday, happy Sunday, happy Sunday. It never fails. Right before I'm about to go live, something is always going on in the background. And I'm just going to take that as necessary energy because it doesn't stop us. It doesn't stop me. It doesn't stop you. And I am just grateful for making it. We made it through another week. We're making it through the end of May. I declared that May was going to be good to me, and it has been quite delicious. I hope the same is true for you. I am Coach Yolanda, international spiritual life coach. I am grateful and honored to be here as the owner of Evolving Spirit Wellness located in Newark, Delaware. I am always grateful for the moments where I get to connect with people. Most of my work is one on one, whether I am participating as a spiritual life coach, as a birth doula, lactation um, coach. What else do I do? Oh, I'm a Reiki master teacher. Most of those things happen one on one. So anytime I get to meet with groups of individuals, it makes my heart sing. And so I'm grateful for those of you who show up on Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time on Facebook or on YouTube. And like I said, every single Sunday, right before it's time to come on, something happens. A call or something always happens. And perhaps that's just something that happens to keep me on my toes. This month, we have been on our toes talking about the 6 to 12-year-old developmental stage of childhood. We are dedicating 2023 to inner child healing, inner child work, and saluting and supporting our inner children. Really taking a look at things that happened as we were developing. And I've got some interesting things to read to you today. Today, we're going to focus on self love because, believe it or not, self love is the energy that all children have. We may not always recognize it as such, but children love themselves. They consider themselves to be the center of whatever universe they happen to be in, and we could learn a lot about that. This is the age and stage where some of that separation starts to happen, that separation from who we truly are and who we know ourselves to be. And so we have to talk about self love. We've talked about worthiness. Our first meditation for May, we talked about worthiness, and you have to know it, believe it, and it has to carry you through every experience, just like a child, of worthiness, because it's at this developmental stage from 6 to 12 where kids want to believe themselves to be, they already know that they're worthy, but they're looking for other people to say, am I good enough? Tell me I'm a good girl. Tell me I'm a good boy. Tell me I'm doing things right. I'm becoming more and more independent. So I have to trust me. I have to learn how to do things on my own. And I want to know that what I'm doing well. And so the developmental issue of worthiness comes about. We talked about affirmations. Kids love to be affirmed. You know how kids are always like, look at me, and they're not really doing anything, but they love for affirmations. They love for people to say, you're great, you're wonderful. Oh, look at you, you're magnificent. Grandbaby girl just left. And most of what she did when she was here was tell me how great I am. And I am more than happy to oblige in doing that. And so, somewhere in this age stage, that starts to separate. That starts to become everything that kids are looking for, but not quite yet. And last week we talked about failure to mature. So sometimes we will see kids in this age range regress to previous ages. You know, your 10-year-old seems to be acting like a 5-year-old, or the 12-year-old seems to be acting like a 10-year-old, and you're trying to figure out, you know, that they have mastered particular skills. Why is the child regressing? Stress. We love to say that children are resilient. Please stop saying that. Children don't have a choice. They've got to figure it out. And so we come up with survival skills as children. We call it resilience, but it's in response to stress. Kids get stressed too. Kids have anxiety. Kids have things that happen to them that stress them out. And we think that all kids do is play and joke and laugh. And I'm telling you, being a kid is serious business, particularly with the issues that children are facing today that we did not have to face. Not to say that we didn't face some serious traumatic experiences when we were younger. And that is another reason why we're doing inner child healing, to look at what happened from the age of 6 to 12 that made you forget that you were worthy. What happened between the age of 6 to 12 that made you forget that you deserve to be affirmed? What happened between the ages of 6 to 12 that made you regress and create some survival coping mechanisms that are still showing up for you today? And most importantly, what happened between the time that you were 6 to 12 that made you fall out of love with yourself? Because children come here loving themselves. So I am going to read some things. I'm going to start with the definition of self love. Believe it or not, the Revealing Word Metaphysical Dictionary has a definition for self love. There is a definition. Now, I know for many of us, we think self love is, oh, go get my hair done, my nails did, I take care of myself. It's more than that. It's more than the nice, kind things that you do for yourself. Self love, as defined by the metaphysical definition, is care for one's own happiness and well being. This care is entirely compatible with justice, generosity, and love for others. So you are deserving of justice. If something occurred in your young life from 6 to age 12, you deserve to have justice. You deserve that balance, because that's what justice is, balancing and righting some wrongs. You deserve generosity. How many of us actually believe that we deserve generosity? We deserve, not because of anything we've done or who we are, but simply, I should say, simply because of who we are. We deserve generosity, and we deserve love from others and for ourselves. So I'm going to read that one more time, and there's a continuation of this definition. Self love means care for one's own happiness. Your happiness is important, and your well being. This care is entirely compatible with justice, generosity, and love for others. Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy strength, and with all thy mind, and thy neighbor as thyself. That's Luke 10:27. For those of you who need scripture to back up what self love is, I am going to read the law. Did you know? Hey, Kim, did you know that there is a spiritual law, a universal law that we all live under that supports you loving yourself well? It is called the law of self approval. The mental and spiritual realization that we are one with the creative spirit, which always approves of us. So your mental, meaning your mind, meaning your mental energy, your emotional energy, and your spiritual realization that we are one with the creative spirit, which always approves of us. How could we conquer all of the things that we need to conquer if we absolutely believed and held within our consciousness that we are approved by the creative spirit of the universe? Do you know how powerful that is? And just like kids who are always looking for approval or affirmation or worthiness, we spend so much of our time, we spend so much of our time looking for approval from others, and sometimes looking for approval from ourselves. Hello, my love. So, self love is a universal law. You are supposed to approve of yourself at all times. And I know for many of us that can be challenging, that can be difficult. But when you're a kid, you do, until something else comes along to disrupt that. So I'm going to read one more thing from one of my favorite books, The Spirit of Intimacy: Ancient African Teachings in the Ways of Relationships by Sobonfu Some. Sobonfu Some is with the ancestors along with her husband. Every single thing that they have written or said or has come out of their mouths, I love. And this book has been particularly helpful for me in terms of my own challenges with intimacy. And so, what Miss Madame Some says is that, every single one of us comes into existence with a purpose, right? We all come into life with a purpose. Something happens, and she believes it's that when we are growing up, it's a process of forgetting. This body, our bodies, as the elders say, takes away certain things from us as we grow. Up until the age of 5 or 6, children remember things perfectly. But after that, something starts to happen in the body that makes them forget. So, up until about 5 or 6, which is right before this developmental stage, we know who we are. We know why we've come here. You know, if you've ever seen children up until the age of 5 or 6, they are happy go lucky. They are living life. We could learn a lot from the way that children behave, but then something happens where we start to forget our purpose and the reason that we are here. And I would say it's the outside influences. It's not knowing that you're worthy, not being affirmed, regressing back to those earlier stages, which for some people feels like safety. And we do it as adults. We retreat back into those developmental stages that feel like it's safe for us to be there. I know I like to avoid things when the pressure and the stress of life feels like too much. I like to regress. I like to pout and have a little tantrum because it feels like a safety mechanism. And for children who are dependent upon the adults, the caregivers, to guide them through life, who may not always do what that we are supposed to do, or from the mind of a child, it may look like we are not being affirmed or supported. Because remember, children have very little choice in the huge things in their life. Children don't have a choice about how they grow up, where they grow up. Children don't have a choice in who is raising them, where they go to school. These things are done for children. And it may be contrary to the spirit that that child possesses that we all came here with. So just imagine that you knew you came into this world to be an artist and then it wasn't supported. It wasn't supported by your family. It wasn't supported by society. It just wasn't supported. But you knew in your heart of hearts, I'm supposed to create art. I'm supposed to be a musician. I'm supposed to be a painter. I'm supposed to be a writer, but I'm not being affirmed in that. I don't feel as though I'm worthy. Let's say, even if you are doing those things as a child, someone comes along and says, that's not so great. Maybe you should try something else. You're not very good at that. All of those things can contribute to you not loving yourself in the way that you did when you first came here. And so that's why we have to talk about self love today. That's why we have to declare that we need to get back to that knowing that Sister Some talks about, that knowing I came here for a purpose. I am worthy. I know that I am an expert at this thing that I came here to do, or I wouldn't have so much of it in me. It wouldn't be burning a hole in my soul if it wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. But maybe the world doesn't support it. Maybe society doesn't support it. Maybe I don't even support it, which is why we have to talk about how we love ourselves. And are we truly loving ourselves? And I'm not talking about those superficial things. They can contribute, like getting your nails done. Grandbaby girl tried to do my nails today. Like getting your nails done, going out, vacationing. Those things are great for your self esteem. Those things are great for your stress relief. I am talking about the type of love where you know who you are, you know what your purpose is, you don't feel stuck, you don't feel stagnant, you don't feel pressure to be anything else other than who you are. And so there are many of us who, in pursuit of loving ourselves, could be doing a lot of unnecessary work. What does unnecessary work look like? Control. Anywhere where you feel like you've got to have control over everything, it's unnecessary. If you believe that you are one with the creative spirit of life, if you believe the law of self approval and that you are one with the creative spirit, which always approves of us, then what are you trying to prove? Why are you working yourself to the bone? Why are you doing things looking, seeking approval when you've already been approved? when you already know, when you already came here knowing. That's the type of self love that we're talking about. Children have it, and then we lose it. We need to reclaim that. And so, what unnecessary work are you engaging in? And these are some of the things that it looks like. Perfection. How many of us are not really doing the thing that we say that we want to do because we want it to be perfect? We're so critical. I can remember providing a Reiki session to a client, and she is a painter, and she was upset because she hadn't painted anything in quite some time. And I said, "Well, what's holding you back? Where is the resistance?" And she's like, "Well, I don't like what I'm making. It doesn't look as good as." And I stopped her. As good as what? Why are you comparing yourself to anything other than what is living within your own body? Why does it have to look like something else, someone else's, or has to meet a standard that doesn't live inside your consciousness? Why can't you just paint? And she looked at me and she's like, "I don't know." I said, "You do know." And as I said in the beginning of the year, we're no longer saying, "I don't know." We do know. We're reclaiming it. And so it was perfection, that was the pursuit of perfection, that was keeping her from creating, keeping her from being one with the creative spirit of all things. Can you imagine? I can. Having creative spirit within you, already being approved, but still feeling like you're not good enough, still feeling like you don't measure up, still feeling like a little kid in some ways, where someone is going to come along and criticize it, and then you shrink into yourself. So, perfection can keep many of us. That's unnecessary work, that pursuit of perfection. Now, pursuit of excellence is different than pursuit of perfection, because perfection for many people is a measurement against something else, someone else. Pursuit of excellence is, you know, when you've done your best, you can feel it. You feel good about what you've created, and it doesn't matter if anybody else likes it. You feel good about it. One of the other things, the unnecessary work that we engage in the pursuit of loving ourselves, is people pleasing. That doesn't mean that you can't be kind to people. It means there's a difference between connection and attachment. Connection is, I already know I'm great and I want to connect with other people who know the same. That's connection. It's reciprocal, it's balanced, it's even. Attachment is more so, I don't think I have these things inside of me, so I'm going to attach myself to you, and maybe I'll feel better about myself. It's almost like a succubus sucking on to something, feeling like it can't survive unless it's attached to something else. Sometimes people pleasing is an attachment issue. I have got to attach myself to the approval of others in order to feel good about myself, instead of, I like doing nice things for nice people. It's a reciprocal thing. I pour into you, you pour into me, and we all feel good. And no one is really taking from, no one's keeping a record of, what, who did, and all of that stuff. So making sure that you are connected to people is absolutely loving. But is it attachment or is it connection? That is where the unnecessary work comes in, when you are attaching yourself to things and to people in order to feel good about yourself. And straight up inauthenticity, pretending. Kids are really, really real. Adults can be really, really phony. I know a lot about that because many times in my life I had to feel like I had to pretend in order to make other people feel better, in order to not get hurt or harmed. That is another survival technique that you learn in childhood. Let me act like everything is okay so that I'm safe. Because if I say something is wrong, then I'm going to get the attention that I don't want. So I can pretend. Kids are good at pretending too, but for the most part, kids are real. If you spent any amount of time around some 6-year-olds, they will tell you everything that they see, everything that they hear, everything that they know to be true. Sometimes too much, where you're like, you're talking too much and you're telling too much, but that's authentic. As children get older, that's where they learn how to pretend, how to fake it, how to fake it, how to fake it. Adults are very good at faking it. There are a lot of us who are faking it through life right now. You're doing things you don't know you don't want to do. You're in jobs you know you hate. You're with people that you don't even really like. You're pretending. And your soul is not fulfilled. So instead of people pleasing, how about we do some soul and spirit pleasing? Because why would you want to be in relationship with anyone who does not want you to be your authentic self? Why? Probably because they're not being their authentic selves. So you got two phony people who are attached to one another. That's not sustainable. And we don't need it. We don't like it. It's unnecessary work. One of the things that I have just discovered for myself is how many ways that I have been or have been operating in an oppressive way, oppressive behavior to my body, to my spirit, and to my mind. And what that looks like is adopting the principles of oppressors so that your consciousness thinks, I got to have blood, I got to have sweat, and I got to have tears in order for things to be meaningful. And I really had to ask myself, why do you think you got to drag yourself through the mud in order to determine your worthiness or affirm yourself? You don't have to do that. I remember I was having a conversation with one of my spiritual mamas about a goal that I had set for myself in exercising. And so she's like, how's it going? I said, it's not going because my treadmill is in the basement. There's no real natural light down there. It's creepy. I don't like it. So I don't really want to go down there and walk on the treadmill. And she just got quiet and she's like, well, why do you think you have to do that? I said, well, I set this goal that I was going to run on the treadmill every day for an hour, to really build up my endurance. And she said, why do you think it has to be that way? Why can't you just go walk outside amongst nature? Why isn't that enough? And I didn't have a good enough answer. Like, because in my mind, I needed to be in the basement and I need to be on the treadmill and I got to have buckets of sweat coming out and, for a whole hour. It needed to be that way for me, or else it wasn't worthy of saying that I was exercising. And she said, if you went outside where there was nature and it was much more pleasurable for you, you probably would do it more on a regular basis. And she was right. She's like, you really need to think about why you think everything's got to be hard. Everything's got to be oppressive. Everything's got to be you sweating, you crying. Why do you have to take yourself to these extremes in order to determine whether you're doing it right or wrong? It's not necessary. That's what oppressors say. If you want this, you've got to earn it through hard sweat and work and blah, blah. And I'm looking at all of the ways where I'm doing that to my body, the extreme dieting, the extreme exercising. If it's not taking place like this, then it's not really taking place. It's like, if you want a gentle life, Yolanda, you got to learn how to be gentle with yourself. I look at all of the ways where extreme practices in my spiritual life, you got to be on your knees for an hour and you've got to, really put in time. And why? If it's a spiritual practice, why do I feel like I have to hurt or harm myself in order to be worthy when I've already been approved by the creative mind? I've already been approved, but yet in my mind, I've got to go to the extremes or it doesn't mean anything. Where did we learn that? We have got to take a look at where we learned that. And for many of us, we learned that in childhood. I saw a young person the other day with whom I assumed was his father, and they were running. And I'm thinking, that little kid does not have the same level of endurance as that adult, but the father was expecting the little kid to catch up and to stay, I'm like, your legs are longer, you've probably been doing this longer. And why do you have to go through that extreme in order to teach your child something that they may not even wind up liking all that much because of the way that it was introduced to them? And I'm thinking that's a life lesson that young person is going to carry with them, that if you really want something, you've got to beat yourself up in order to get it. That's not necessarily true. Now, there are absolutely times within a spiritual enlightenment process where you need to disrupt some patterns and some habits. And so you may have to do some things like fasting, like going on a sabbatical where you are not speaking to anyone. Those can be good for the soul. But in our day to day living, why do we think we have to go through oppressive and extreme practices in order to love ourselves? And then the Olympics that we go through with our mind. Sometimes we have to take ourselves to the scariest parts of our consciousness in order to process information. I know I'm guilty of that, or I used to be. One little thing happens and it's doom and gloom from the beginning. Oh my gosh, so and so didn't call me back. They hate me. They don't like me anymore. This relationship is over. What am I going to do with myself? Like immediately going to the oppressive and extreme outcome instead of being gentle and loving with myself by saying, well, they'll call me back when they call me back. If they call me back, good. If they don't, oh well, that's their choice. We don't always have to go to the extreme. That's unnecessary work. If you really want to love yourself, if you really want to believe that you are one with the creative spirit, which always approves of you, you don't have to beat yourself up in order to get there. And then there is the thing that I'm actually going to be talking about on Wednesday, the duality. You're one way at work and you're another way at home. Or you're one way with this group of people and you're another way with another group of people. You are split in two because you are not being your authentic self. You feel like I can be who I am with this group, but I can't be who I am with that group. Why not? Because they won't approve of you, because they may criticize you. Again, that's unnecessary work. If you truly, truly love and accept and affirm yourself, you are who you are, no matter where you are, with whom you are. And I know for some, it's a safety mechanism. I'm thinking about those who may be living a lifestyle that their families may not agree with. And so they're one way with their chosen family and friends, and they're another way with their family of origin or their biological family because grandma's not going to understand. So let me not dress the way that I typically dress. Let me not speak the way that I typically speak. Let me put on this whole facade just so that I can be around my family. That's a terrible way to have to love yourself. And I know so many of us feel like it's easier to just play along than it is to show up as I am. You have to decide how long that's going to be sustainable for your spirit, where you have to pretend for other people's comfort instead of being who you are as you all are at all times. Because I can't imagine how exhausting that must be for you to live your life in a dual way where the work people see this, but the personal people see that. Why can't you be all of who you are when you've already been approved of? Who cares what other people think? And in some ways, we're giving into that attachment, that toxic attachment, that other people's commentary, other people's judgment is more worthy than me being who I am. Nothing could be more worthy than you being exactly as you were created to be. That is how you love yourself. And that is aligned with the spiritual law that says you are already approved, the spiritual law that says I am as I am. We talked about that when we did affirmations. Whatever you put after I am is a whole statement. So if you say I am one way with y'all, but I am one way with the other, then you're going to be living a dual life because you've chosen to do that. Not saying it's not it's not easy to do, to just say, okay, I'm going to show up as I am and everybody else is going to have to deal with it. It takes time. It takes time. But just as Sister Some said, up until the age about 5 or 6, we are as we are until other people start giving commentary about who we're supposed to be and how we're supposed to look and what we should sound like and the jobs that we should have. We are in the time of graduation for so many people. And every time I see someone with a cap and gown on, I say, I pray that their heart leads them to the occupation that they desire and not the one that everybody else thinks that they should be in. Because how many of us have gotten to the ripe old age of 30 or 40 or 50 and we're like, I can't stand my job. I don't want to do this. This is not what I should be, could be, or was created to be doing. I don't like it here. I don't like the people that I work with. I don't like the work that I do. I am so grateful to be in a position where I can do things that I like to do. And I'm not saying it doesn't come without sacrifice. There are some sacrifices that I've had to make, but I'm happy. I may not be able to travel and do all of the things yet that I love to do, but I'm happy. And I don't have to run from this side of the world to the other side of the world to find happiness. It's right in here. I have to say that this is probably one of the happiest times of my life. And because I created it, along with the creative spirit, it means so much more to me. I'm so appreciative and grateful of the life that I am able to live right now. Even though sometimes it feels like I would love to do other things and maybe I want to, pretend to be this, pretend. I don't have to pretend anywhere in my life. This is me all day every day, and it feels so good. It feels so freeing. Like a kid. I literally feel like a kid. My inner child was playing in the backyard last weekend with my beloved. I wasn't doing that a couple of years ago because I gotta work, gotta grind, gotta blood. Where's the blood? Where's the sweat? Where's the tears? Don't have that mentality anymore. And it's so freeing because it's so loving. I'm paying more attention to how I love myself, how other people are loving me, because I can't be in human interactions that are not loving. I don't, I just don't have it. Hey, my love. And so, if you are prepared and ready to love yourself well, I mean, love yourself in a way that you did back when you were 5, 4, 3, 2, and a baby, before the world started to tell you who you were supposed to be and how it was supposed to look. And this is not the time to bash our caregivers because they were dealing with their own stuff. And a lot of that got poured and pushed onto us as children. I look at the way that my parents lived their lives, and a lot of it was in fear of not having because they grew up without, fear of letting other people, into particular parts of their lives. My parents were very, very giving people, but they lived their life in a limited fashion. My father, I don't even know. My father never traveled. He had been around the world with the military, but he got to a place where he only wanted to stay in one place, and that was home. And even in home, he only wanted to stay in one room, maybe two. He built himself a fortress based upon the fear that he could be hurt or harmed out in the world. I'm so grateful for all that they did, but I also recognize the fear that they poured into me, that the world somehow was a horrible place that was going to eat you alive, and you got to do this, and you can't be letting other people do this. And like all of that commentary, I know came from a loving place, but it limited my life experiences and how I love myself. And I'm so grateful that as an adult, I get to reclaim what I once lost. I get to determine, what did I come here for? And am I living that every single day of my life? And am I happy? Yes. And do I recognize that I am one with the creative spirit? Absolutely. Do I love myself in such a way where I don't allow anyone around me who isn't loving themselves as well? And that's not a judgment. It's that reciprocal energy that I talked about. We can't be attaching to people. We like to connect with people. I love to connect with people that I know that love themselves. And how do I know that they love themselves? When they are being their true selves. When I can feel their heart. When I know that they are not just telling me stuff because it's nice to hear. When I recognize their level of comfort with intimacy, when people, and I don't mean just telling your business, I mean when people share part of their heart with you, you feel it. You feel it. Those are the kind of people that I love to be around because I know they love themselves well. And I know that they've probably gone through some hardship and some heartbreak to get to that point. There is absolutely no way that I went through everything that I've gone through in my life that has broken me apart for me not to love myself. There is absolutely no way that I'm going to be in relationship that doesn't support me loving myself. That's my responsibility. That's our responsibility. But when you know that you are worthy, and when you are affirming yourself, and when you're no longer operating in survival mode, you have to love yourself. There's nothing left to do but to love yourself. And so, do you love yourself is a question that we have to ask every single day. And how am I demonstrating? How am I demonstrating that I am loving myself? And can I increase that? Now, I know when it comes to my body, I can be more loving, making sure that I'm going to the doctor, making sure that I'm eating well. I've been falling off the ledge a little bit lately, but I know that I can recommit to that. How am I good to my spirit? By engaging in spiritual practices and being in environments that make my spirit sing. I just can't do it. I've had too much come through my life that has been good and meaningful for me not to be good and loving to myself. And so, if self love, the definition again, is the care for one's own happiness and well being, that's what I got to be on all the time. Supporting my happiness, supporting my well being, and being compatible with justice, not just my justice, but all justice everywhere. I can't sit by and know that people are being mistreated and think that I'm loving myself because we are all connected. We are all connected. Generosity. Generosity doesn't mean I give everything, it means I give and receive equally, generously. I give of myself because I know that others are also giving to me, and I'm appreciative of it. And absolutely love for others. Self love does not mean I love me and no one else. Self love means that because I love myself, I love everyone. And at the beginning of this year, I said that I was going to adopt the principle that everybody was in love with me until I know different. And I am in love with everyone until I see different. And even if people are doing things that make them unlovable, doesn't stop me loving them. It just might mean the dynamic changes. So we have to decide. You have to decide. And we're going to meditate right now on just how deeply and profoundly you want to love yourself. All of who you are, not just the parts that are agreeable, not just the parts that are happy, all of who you are. Look at that. That's what I'm talking about. Loving, 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 because that's all there is. At the beginning and at the end, that's all there is. And if I can increase love in my life and love in the world while I am here between the beginning and the end, knowing that I am joined with the creative spirit, that's what I'm here to do. And that is what we are here to do. That is what children do. I'm telling you, children love themselves unconditionally until somebody tells them different. Children love the way they look, they love their body until somebody comes along and says, "Ooh, I don't like that." Or they hear it, or they absorb it. This 6 to 12 age range, particularly for young girls. I don't know what it's like for boys because I'm not a boy, so I don't know. But when girls are in that 12 to 13 age range and they start comparing their bodies to their friends and their peers, and they get into this thing where they just start tearing each other apart. I don't like her hair. I don't like this. I don't like that. I mean, you can see it in even younger children. But where do they get it from? The adults. And so perhaps that's something that we need to look at. What happened from the time that I was 6 to the time that I was 12 that made me fall out of love with myself? Did I not see enough representation? The Little Mermaid came out this weekend, and I have yet to see it. But for all of the little girls who never felt like they saw themselves, please, please, please let your inner child go see that movie so that you can see what it looks like to see someone that looks like you. Let your inner child feel that. I know when I was a little girl, we didn't always have representation. We maybe had a handful and not even a full handful of young women that we could look up to and want to be like and imagine ourselves in those scenarios. Everything looked one way. One of the ways that you can love yourself this weekend is to go see that movie. I don't get any money for saying that, but I know it will make your inner child feel good. And engaging in activities that maybe you didn't get a chance to do when you were younger. Kim, you talked about that a couple of weeks ago with the violin. And every time I pass this violin place in the city of Wilmington, I think about you, Kim. And I hope that you got a chance to hold a violin, to hear and be surrounded. I hope violins play every time you enter a room because you deserve that. If it made your heart sing when you were younger, then you still deserve it. So give your inner child some good loving this weekend. For those of you who are off tomorrow here in the United States, we are celebrating Memorial Day. It is a day for us to acknowledge those who have lost their lives in service. But if you are coming together with your family and your friends, think about, how can I do that in the most loving way for myself? Can I be who I am around these people? Can I laugh out loud without anybody criticizing or judging me? Can I wear what I want to wear, say what I want to say, and be who I am around the group of individuals that I might find myself around? Or am I pretending? Do I feel like I have to pretend? Because if you are going into situations where you feel like you have to pretend, that might not be a situation you need to be. You have to think about that. We have to think about that. So let's take a deep breath wherever you are, making sure that you are safe, making sure that you are not interfering with anybody else's happiness. And think about how you can love yourself greater, grander, and more like you did when you first got here. Let's get back to thinking about ourselves as the center of the universe. Remember last week, if you joined us for meditation, I said, place yourself on a platter, place yourself on a platform, and recognize that you are at all times in the center of the universe. Wherever you are at the center. Take a deep breath and envision that as you are in the center of the universe, being approved by the creative force, being approved by the divine, being approved by whatever name that you give and hold for God. Just imagine that creative connection, not attachment, that creative connection between you and source. And there's nothing disrupting it. There's nothing cutting it. There's nothing that you have to do to feel that connection because it's been there. It's what brought you into existence. If you could allow yourself to even imagine that force, that energy operating through you as you, that force said, I'm going to split myself and create Kim and David and Erica and Yolanda and everyone else that is watching. And Michelle, imagine that creative energy, the divine God Almighty, the Most High said, I am going to create you as a representation of how powerful and how loving I know myself to be. Before anything else told you differently, before anyone else made you feel differently, before this world sent any messages to your brain, to your body, to your spirit that was not aligned with what you know to be true. Just imagine what you could and what you will accomplish. Erica says, as a recovering people pleaser, I am learning to receive. That is one of the greatest things about self love. You open yourself up to receive without the filter of they have an ulterior motive. I don't trust. I don't know. The only filter that any of us needs has already been taken care of by the Most High. Relax into that feeling that you deserve to love yourself in a way that might make other people uncomfortable. They'll be all right. They will be okay. And one of the things that we also have to learn is we cannot disrupt someone else's spiritual journey and their process. So people pleasing does that. If you are always running to the rescue of everyone else, you will never see them figure it out for themselves. If you are always the rescuer, how is anybody else supposed to figure out what their process is? So I'm so grateful, Erica, that you are a recovering people pleaser. I am too. All of the recovering people pleasers, raise your hand and recognize that as the center of the universe, you are also in relationship with other people who are also the center of the universe. We're not talking about you up here and everybody else down here. We're talking about everybody aligned with the same energy. We really do have it. There's no need to compete or compare. We don't have to look at anyone else's progress, process, or anyone else's journey as some kind of commentary about who we are because your journey is unique. It is as unique as your fingerprint. And because that can't be found anywhere else on this planet, that should give you more than enough reason to say, I have to love me greatly because there's no one else like me. And that might sound arrogant. It is not. It is confident. And it is aligned with the creative spirit. It's the approval that you think that you need that has already been given, or you wouldn't be in existence. You would not be a reflection and example of God if you were not already approved. If that doesn't make you tingle, I don't know what else will. It makes me tingle to even think about it. I have already been, and I have been sent here to do a particular thing that no one else can do like me. And I don't say that with arrogance. I say that with the assurance and the approval of the Most High. You can't do what I do. I can't do what you do. And it's not necessary for any one of us to even try. Why can't we revel in our uniqueness? Why can't we be grateful for the way that we love ourselves and the way that we love other people? At the end of our human life, I know we want to be surrounded with people who are like, oh, she was so great. She was so wonderful. She was so loving. I would like to be surrounded by people who said that woman knew how to love herself. And I'm so grateful she shared that example, that she did not tolerate unkindness, that she talked to herself in loving ways, that she was proud of herself, and not in a way that made anyone else feel less than, but in a way that made other people feel like they could have the permission to do the same. And so I'm asking each and every single one of you to rise up and love yourself in such a way where you're no longer taking nonsense from other people. You can't. When you are a godlike figure, you cannot. And I've heard it said before that giraffes do not know the conversation of turtles because they are on two different places. And so the conversation of a giraffe may have to do with, the high trees and being bumping into things and all of that stuff. And the conversation of a turtle might be, it's I'm low to the ground and I've got to be careful of this, that, and the other. The conversations are not the same. They're unique and different. None is greater than the other. They're just a different conversation. So maybe the atmosphere or environment that you're around doesn't feel loving because it's not the conversations you are supposed to be having. You need to be around some different conversations. And if you are determined to love yourself and love others, then you need to be in loving places and spaces and focus on that. Because if there is someone in your life that is not supporting you lovingly, then why are they in your life? Now, it could be that they don't know how to love themselves. So you can wish them well on their journey to discovering how to love themselves, but you see yourself at the center of the universe, as unique as you are. Nowhere on this planet or any other planet that has yet to be discovered will we find another you. You have already been approved. You came here knowing, and now you get to rediscover. And so maybe that's a loving question that you can ask yourself for the rest of the week. How can I love myself like I know that I came here for that purpose? And every choice that you make has to be aligned with that love, has to be aligned with your happiness, your well being. Doesn't mean that it's always going to be easy or comfortable, but it's got to be loving. And loving yourself also means being accountable when you know you're not doing the things that you ought to be doing. Like the conversation that I had with my spiritual mother. I knew that I needed to be doing, but I only had one way of doing it. And she said, expand the way you see yourself and the way you see this activity and make it more loving. So you're not hurting and harming yourself and feeling like, I don't want to do it, or beating yourself up because, oh, you didn't go to the gym today. Okay. Well, there are other ways that I can be good to my body. My body deserves rest. My body deserves love. It deserves kisses and hugs. It deserves a lot of things. It doesn't just deserve to work hard and to sweat and to cry and to bleed. You are deserving of kindness and gentleness and softness. You are deserving of someone whispering in your ear and telling you every single day, I love you. You have to know that. That's how you love yourself. By knowing that you're worthy, knowing that you have to affirm yourself and others need to affirm you too. I don't know where we started this business of, someone gives you a compliment and you negate it with, oh no, oh no. No, take the damn compliment. It was given to you for a reason. Take it. Own it. If someone tells you you look good, agree with them. Say, I sure do. Thank you. I know I'm guilty of that. This beautiful man is always pouring compliments over my head, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to start to receive them in the same energy that they have been given. Thank you for acknowledging how beautiful I am. I worked hard to get to a place where I can acknowledge it myself. Are we still breathing? I hope so. I hope you're breathing in all of the ways that you are going to be more loving to yourself this week. I hope that you are focused on your happiness, your well being. It is great and noble to think about others. Why are you leaving yourself out? I remember I asked one of my clients, why do you always get the least of you? Why? Why are you at the bottom? Where did you learn that? For many of us, we learned it in childhood that our feelings don't matter and that we get, we are only considered if there is some value in us considering. Meaning, when you're a child, nobody's asking you for your input unless they need you to do something, right? Unless there is some value to your input. All are worthy of consideration. All are worthy of affirming. All of us are deserving. Remember, I told y'all I wrote down all of the things that I want in my love relationships. I got to be all of these things to myself before I'm looking for other people to give them to me. So if I'm looking for other people to be honest with me, I have to be honest with me. That's how I love me, by being honest, and sometimes brutally honest, and telling the bald head truth that there are things that I know that I can do in a kinder way, in a more gentle way. There are more responsibilities that I really need to pay attention to. That's how I love myself. But all of these things that I've written down, I have to live up to them first and foremost before I look for anybody else to do that for me. Remember what we talked about, the connection versus the um, attachment. I can't attach myself to anything, anyone, any experience. I have to create it in here first and foremost and always. I can't be looking for people to affirm me if I'm not affirming myself. I can't look for people to respect me if I'm not respecting myself. And I'm certainly not looking for other people's holiness if I don't have it within me first. And I know many of us grew up in religions that told us that we had to go outside or external to find salvation. You got to find it in here, in your mind, in your body, in your spirit, before you look for it elsewhere, or you're going to attach yourself to something that feels like it has what you need. And if you're not attached to it, you're not going to get it. Instead of connecting, where you're like, yep, that's in alignment with who I know myself to be. And I'm more than happy to connect with you. You have to know all of these things for yourself. Because if you don't, you're going to be expecting other people to give you love. And it might be something else that does not look like what you think it's going to look like. So pay attention to how you're loving yourself. And are you loving yourself in the way that you know you want to? And if you're not, if you know that you're doing unnecessary work, which is people pleasing, the perfection, the oppressive behaviors, the duality, if you know that is going on in your life, the first thing you have to do is acknowledge it and say, this ain't it. This is not it. This is not the me that I desire to be, nor is it the me that I was created to be. I'm not living it. It's not authentic. You have to acknowledge when you are being inauthentic, when you're being fake, when you're being phony, when you're pretending, particularly for other people's benefit. You're betraying yourself and you know it. You have to acknowledge it. And once you acknowledge it and continue to confess it, then you have to see where it is showing up. Is it showing up on the job? Is it showing up in your relationships? Is it showing up in your family? Is it showing up in the way that you treat yourself? Where you know that there are things you should be paying attention to, but you avoid it. You distract yourself. For all of you who haven't been to the doctor, who know that there is something going on in your body, but you're going to ignore it, you're going to pretend like it's not happening, don't do that. Love yourself enough to pay attention to when you don't feel well. Love yourself enough to pay attention to when you're around people that you don't feel well, or when you're engaging in behavior that, I just don't even really want to do this. I don't want to do it. And for those of you who would love to have a deeper conversation, there are always office hours. Um, I love, love, love to talk to people about what is going on with them, because within the 60 minutes that we talk, I'm going to tell you all of the things that I love about you and what I know to be true. And I'm going to ask you questions, and you're going to have to tell me the truth, because I'm going to be able to know when you're not. And so if you feel stuck, if you feel disconnected, if you feel like, I think I love myself, but I'm not really sure if I do, because if I did, then why am I in this relationship? Then let's have a conversation about it. If I really love myself, then why am I working in a place that I don't love? I'm not telling anybody to quit your job. I am not Beyonce. I'm not telling anybody to quit their job, but I would love for you to have a better relationship with the job that you have chosen, because you chose it. You picked it. And if you picked it and you don't like it, then you have to figure out where is the disconnect. And so on my website is where you can book some time with me. My time is getting shorter and shorter and shorter as my responsibilities get bigger and bigger and bigger. But I'd love to have conversations about love because for me, every conversation is about love. We have this idea that love is just, airy and free and light. And no, sometimes love is facing the darkness because that's a loving thing to do. Sometimes love is, I don't think you can't see it, but there is a thing I created about being broken. Sometimes love is facing your brokenness. Sometimes love is telling your inner children you were innocent and the thing that happened to you should not have happened. And why are you still punishing yourself for it? Why are you still trying to live up to a standard that was never created for you? All of these things are very loving things to ask yourself. And I would love to have that conversation with you. And so, schedule some office hours with me. Let's talk about it. This is not a pitch for me to work with, or it's a conversation because that's what I'm here to do, to have conversations centered around love so that I love myself and that I'm giving love to others and that we increase the love in the collective consciousness. I know what I'm here for. I'm very clear about that. And anytime I'm trying to do something different, that's when life, the creative force is like, what are you doing? I didn't send you to do that. I didn't tell you to do that. I sent you there to love. So get about the business that you were sent to do. And if you are having any trouble thinking about what that is or seeing yourself in that way, then book some time with me. I'm so grateful to be able to spend time doing what I love every Sunday at 1 o'clock. Now, on Wednesday, the conversation about duality is one that I am so excited about. And so, Work It Wellness Wednesday live at 6 o'clock here on YouTube and on Facebook. I get to talk to the amazing Simone Henderson. She is an international hairstylist. She is a custom wig maker. This woman is amazing. And so, I love to talk to individuals who are not living that dual life where what they do professionally and what they do personally are combined. It's spiritual to be able to do that, to be able to show up as you are in all places that you inhabit. And we're going to talk about that Wednesday live at 6 o'clock. Please join us here on YouTube and on Facebook. And I love talking to individuals who have figured out how to show up as themselves no matter what place they are in. Erica says, why people close to me kept betraying until I looked at what I was doing. Let me tell you something. We always think it's them. Why are people mishandling me, mistreating me? Why are you allowing it? You're allowing it. I know that we would all love to show up as our most loving selves and have other people look at us and say, oh, she's so loving. Let me be loving back. It doesn't always happen that way. Nowhere is it written where it says you show up as loving and then forget that other people need to also be loving to you. You have to love yourself in such a way that you pay attention. Are you betraying yourself? Are you authentic? What is your reasoning for doing some of the things that you're doing? And if you can get to the root of it, and the root of it is because I want people to like me, or because I need their approval, or because it makes it easier for me, that's manipulation. We can talk about that in the next developmental stage because woo, woo, woo. There is nothing like manipulation and how it shows up in the teenage years. My goodness, my God. I thank God that I don't no longer have teenagers. My children are all full-fledged adults. Now, grandbaby girl got to come up through that stage, but next developmental stage, the teenage years, is where a lot of us learned some of these behaviors that we still have, like manipulation, like betrayal, because we're really, really trying to figure ourselves out. The world is like, okay, you're about to be an adult. You need to know everything that you should know. And you're like, no, I don't. I don't know who I am. I don't know what I want to do with my life. So, starting in June, we're going to be talking about the next developmental stage. Put on your seatbelts because I know for many of us, the teenage years were difficult, somewhat traumatizing for many of us. Fun, yes, but also some traumatic things may have happened. Um, we're going to be gentle, though. We're going to be loving and we're going to be supportive of that developmental stage. I love each and every single one of you that is supportive of this particular offering every Sunday at 1 p.m. Again, we'll be doing stuff on Wednesday. We may be increasing in other places. No matter what I do, I'll do my best to try to tell you what it is. There's my website. You can go and find more. Just love yourselves, please, please, please love yourself beyond the brunches and the vacations and love yourself all the way down to your spirit, all the way down to your soul. Please, please recognize, just like Erica said, look, she had to take a look at what she was doing. And that is a very loving thing to do. Kim, you are so great. Great. I am so grateful for you. I love you, Kim. I love all of you watching, and I want you to love yourselves even more. Have an amazing rest of your Sunday. If you have tomorrow off, enjoy it. Make sure that it is filled with love. You are so welcome, Erica. And I'm getting ready to go love on myself even more by surrounding myself with some good, loving people. Have a great Sunday, y'all. Love you. Bye bye.